Heyo, Angry Spork here with Young Justice Outsiders, episode 24, Into the Breach, which sees the Outsiders in the bio ship staking out one of Granny's studios. And this is happening as McGann is texting Garfield, wish us luck as they go off to face Granny Goodness. When he's texting back, he's preparing his team to go inside. Before they do, however, since the team already investigated the studio, Cyborg explains that when he first became a cyborg, he could, incidentally, not controlling it, intercept electronic signals, like a text. He first noticed it when, in a text between Brion and Violet. And he didn't want to control it, so he never tried to. But since he was healed by Metron's chair, he's been able to get a better grasp on it, and now he kind of becomes the information superhighway, similar yet also dissimilar to what Oracle does. Because of this ability, he can detect an apocalyptic signal inside Building 16, which is where they keep the set pieces, props, etc. for various productions. And Static is still with Jefferson Pierce, and Beast Boy apparently didn't want to get Brion's hopes up that Violet might be inside. I guess he doesn't know that Geo-Force went to the orphanage to find her. They're going to go in, but they're going to go in smart. So, stealth and guile and all that. But, of course, Granny's sitting with her little Overlord box, so she knows they're coming. So they boom tube inside, and Kid Flash speedily checks the place out twice, but nothing really suspicious. Until Vic uses his cybernetic abilities. I guess there was a holographic projection showing everything normal, but there's this big, sinister-looking machine that Blue Beetle Scarab says is from Apocalypse, and Vic tries to communicate with it, figure out what makes it tick when they're dropped into the X-Pit. We briefly go to Luthor, who's seeing that We Are All Outsiders is trending just a bit more than Infinity Inc. I mean, there's a sizable gap between them, so he makes a call, and then we go back to the X-Pit. El Dorado is teleported in, trying to help out, and, well, he starts getting the pain feeling too, and he goes for Kid Flash first, but he says, no, go for Jaime, because his beetle has shut down. Not compatible! And he's like, now he's even more vulnerable. But El Dorado can't get his bearings straight, so he can't get anyone out of there. So Granny Goodness boxes Garfield and, gives the usual discipline speech and a crack about being a Hollywood producer, knowing the value of someone's suffering. She offers an all-or-nothing duel between herself and Beast Boy, and he's like, okay. They merge the boxes together into a much larger, arena. He goes Rhino, but that surprisingly doesn't do anything. She just, wham! And she got the murder eyes. Meanwhile, Vic concentrates, and he basically ends up in a system, and he's got this avatar that looks like he used to look all human, and then he finds Overlord, and Overlord is much, much bigger. Beast Boy grapples with Granny some more, this time as a gorilla, but she's just knocking him aside, saying, hey, no matter how nasty you are, there's always someone nastier. Then he throws her off her game a little by, changing his gorilla hair to resemble her hair. She's taken aback at first, but she quickly regains herself. She's like, rude! Punching him in the gut over and over, and then sending him back at the other end of the ring. He's got blood trickling down his face. And we go back to Luthor again briefly, and he sees that, he sees some footage of Infinity Inc. tackling Killer Frost, and as a result, We Are All Outsiders is neck and neck with Infinity Inc. So, that new group has gained some hashtag traction, because that'll save the universe. Beast Boy tries going Python or Boa Constrictor, because he constricts around Granny briefly, but she breaks free and just smacks him across the arena walls, and he keeps losing more blood, and then he turns into this alien animal and charges her. And I'm just thinking, she's obviously super strong, but is she too strong against a T-Rex? Because T-Rex was, practically a go-to offensive animal for Beast Boy in the Teen Titans cartoon. So maybe he doesn't want to straight up kill her, but I think if a T-Rex tail slammed her against the wall, I think she'd survive. So as Beast Boy battles on, despite his injuries, Cyborg evades Overlord, runs off until Overlord generates a spear and just chucks it right through him, and ooh, that is painful to look at. Get the blood and everything.
Your love life will run into trouble when your fiancé hurls a javelin through your chest.
But then Cyborg realizes, hey, I'm not dead, and I am looking all fleshy, like I used to. And he realizes that this world isn't really real, it's not really happening to him. So the victor is determined by who wants it more, and no one wants it more than Victor Stone. So he morphs into his current state, fights back against Overlord, eventually overcoming him, plunging his hands into the machine, and it just disappears. I noticed they've kept the black and gray and red motif that seems to have started with the New 52, if I'm not mistaken, for this character. Light and dark blues that, I'm more familiar with, and quite frankly I prefer, because, well, reds and black or reds and very dark just got played out very quickly in 2011, 2012. But anyway, he says the thing, he says booyah! Good for him. Everyone returns to the studio right as Granny is still punching Gorilla Gar, and she's wondering, hey, Overlord, who told you to end the lesson? That's when Wonder Girl ensnares her in her lasso, and while she, Kid Flash, and Beast Boy deal with her, Cyborg takes El Dorado and Blue Beetle over to the big evil machine, and they blast it to bits. And that causes Granny and Overlord to just kind of, I guess, mini boom tube out. It's like, it didn't act like a normal boom tube. It's like they got sucked into a tiny vortex that disappeared. Afterwards, Vic's like, hey, I can still track her. So he opens up a boom tube of his own and just goes right through it without the rest of the team. And Kid Flash is like, did we lose? It felt like we lost. Vic has teleported to the orphanage, specifically inside the safety box Granny Goodness has herself and Violet in. And he sees Gretchen Good and Granny merge into one. It's not like horror movie, right? Like, it's still pretty intense. It's like kind of weird to see. It's like separating Play-Doh, but in reverse. And then he notices, oh, hey, there's Violet. And we see all the heroes that are enslaved by the anti-life equation. But we see all three of the Green Lanterns and Elongated Man just, like, pass out. Elongated Man's all stretched out. Like, his powers are glitching or something. And it's just weird. I thought that I can understand, like, the Lanterns, if they're not activating their rings or something, that not only would they be susceptible, they would also suffer, the negative effects the anti-life equation has on normal people. But Elongated Man, he's a metahuman, and I thought that metahumans were basically going to be fine, that they weren't going to suffer or die because of the anti-life. Maybe there's something I missed when Granny said it in a previous episode. Or maybe there's just something about stretchy people that the anti-life equation just doesn't like. Very carefully, Cyborg blasts that visor off of Halo's head, and she realizes what's going on, and she doesn't want to act instinctively, because that would just spread the anti-life. So she generates a rainbow aura, and basically eliminates the anti-life effect on everyone through the power of Skittles! So with everyone cleared up. She traps Granny in a bubble of that red energy that was protecting her beforehand. She leads the charge in destroying the giant machine. She starts blasting at Cyborg, Captain Atom, Superman. Everyone starts blasting at it. Then it starts to blow, and Cyborg is like, ah! Huh, still not dead. Green Lanterns managed to suppress the blast. Granny tries saying she was acting in Halo's best interest, but she's not buying it, and so she smacks her down. Overlord is powered down. I don't know if it's dead or what, and Halo basically warns Granny not to try any of this again. She knows how to eliminate the ghost dimension, so she shouldn't try rebuilding that machine that generated it. And of course, she KO'd the anti-life. So Granny escapes, and Geo-Force runs up, and he and Halo make out, and Connor and McGann are wondering where they are in their relationship. Of course, Superman doesn't need super senses to detect the awkwardness, so he and Captain Atom go to help out those meta-teens. So as some of Granny's minions are taken away, including Mantis, McGann is telling Forager that her brother has returned to Mars, which is kind of awkward because, he was working with the Apocalyptian forces, so is he in trouble? Or did he change his mind? He appeared in one episode, so it's not a huge deal what happens to him, but that doesn't really give us anything, Is he reformed? Is he still a villain? Is he, undercover? What's going on? It's just a weird thing to add right before she says that, Mantis is arrested. Forager could return to his home now, but it's his decision, and they'll respect whichever way he goes. On Apocalypse, Granny is groveling to Darkseid. Yeah, she failed, but it was all for Darkseid. Darkseid, you want to succeed with Darkseid. Repeats what Superboy told her before she disappeared, that her plans were sabotaged by Vandal Savage. Darkseid just gives that stoic but somewhat meaningful evil squint across his eyes. He hasn't said anything. It's probably a good thing. It's keeps the mystique going. The team, including Halo and Cyborg, all return to the Hollywood base, and everyone's all happy, and Beast Boy and the other outsiders, they're like, hey, we all vote for Vic to join us, and Superboy tells him to slow down, how about waiting to see what he wants to do, man? And McGann says she could join the outsiders, but if he doesn't want to go public, he could always join the team. And Vic's like, you know what? Before all this, I sought the spotlight. Why change now? So he decides to join the outsiders and decides to officially call himself Cyborg. Everyone's all cheering, and he says, booyah again, and it's all happy fun giggle time. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, the Infinity Inc. trio are signing autographs while Killer Frost is being apprehended, and we see a control chip on the back of her neck just as she's got an anti-meta collar placed on her. Infinity Inc. enters a limousine, and oh look, Infinity Inc. has trounced We Are All Outsiders in the trendings, and that's awesome. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, and of course it's Lex Luthor's limousine. He's like, he's all smiling. Yeah, this is good. Yeah. Hashtags. Though I do like the emblems they have. It's their initials with one line beneath both sides, each underneath the side of the Infinity crest. So that's very creative. I like that. I know these characters have, or at least Infinity Inc. has existed in DC before, so I'm just not familiar with them. And we get the credits over Lobo's thumb again, but it's more bloated, and I took a closer look. It kind of looks like a weird little marshmallow dude lying down on its side. And then I just watched Death Battle involving Lobo. Oh, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. He's growing into a little Lobo. Because that's apparently Lobo's probably his blood or parts of him can regenerate into other Lobos. Good episode. It felt like it could have been a season finale episode. It had some nice action, brutal fight between Granny and Beast Boy, and a lot of stuff is resolved, but not quite everything. Can't say I really had any problems with it. I mean, Halo seemed a little... Something about her confronting Granny. There was just something about it that seemed like there was something not quite fully realized there yet. I'm not sure what it is. It could just be my imagination, but I think it's just because we haven't seen a whole lot of action in the show this season. I mean, there's been action. It's just like there's also been a lot of exposition, a lot of setup, and a lot of quiet moments, which aren't necessarily bad, but Halo herself has always been more of a defensive character. Like, you know, she heals, she puts up the force fields and so forth. So her being on the offensive is atypical, let's call it. So this is kind of a surprise, but she acts like but it seems like she's been doing it the whole time. So maybe that's it. We still got another couple of episodes, and we'll see where they take them from here. I will see you then.